So it was that in the 7th year of the second 7 years, the child, the break of dawn for her own day, ascended the hilltop of reflection with questions for the village queen, seeking answers. For she knew in the depth of her heart that it was time. A time for transition. That special moment when life itself visibly steps forward in an ultimate act of reverence to mark the passage of time. It signals life's intrinsic longing for continuity, as life does. And so, we notice. At this decisive moment, we look back so that we know which way to go forward. That is why it's called a turning point. Except we don't turn back, we continue. Old crowns new. The past culminates in the present, and it is at crossroads like this that the present yields the future. The baton passes, and the struggle continues, as it must. And so, we witness. She welcomes her with a knowing demeanor. Generations past have come before her, and countless generations to come will pass this way. She's seen it all. As a witness to the uninterrupted flow of history, her face wrinkled from marking these special moments when time passes and it's observed. Please, speak to me, the child pleads. Speak to me, you, the appointed of history. Speak to me in the way of our elders. Speak to me about origins and the journey to self. Please, tell me the full story, from the beginning to the present. The whole 7 years past and the 7 years to come. The 7 years after that, the future lives. In a deliberate manner, she begins, tracing a finger in a deliberate manner, she begins, tracing a finger and marking milestones on the ground. Origins, the beginning, the present, the future, yesterday, today, and tomorrow. Time. Our people have always known that the timeline is as long as the lifeline, for it is the breath of life that animates time. In other words, it is life that makes time tick. So, we don't speak of beginnings in ways alien to history or endings in terminus terms, for we know that even endings proceed to create the infinite continuity of time. Thus, yours is a chapter in a book long begun and long to continue. Therefore, this much is true. You're not of 7 years only. You are not of the second 7 years even. You issue forth from a long history of struggle. So much of Africa's glorious past conspired to climax into you. An unbroken umbilical cord connects you to all those who stood for justice in Africa and everywhere. Those who believed in Africa and her promise for freedom, justice, and dignity for all her children. Yes, you were born of an idea whose time came 7 years ago. And the appearance of this idea in reality is fulfillment of prophecy long uttered. A generation shall rise out of obscurity and fulfill and discover its mission. So, history tasks you today as heir to a legacy of freedom, to carry forward the unfinished business of Africa's liberation. And so, we rejoice in your birth. She rises to proclaim joy to the direction of the four winds. Rejoice, rejoice, for a child is born. Rejoice, a child is born unto Africa. Rejoice, 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 rejoice for Africa. Naming has always been a sacred act for our people. Through names, we define the future that we want. Names carry a people's hopes and aspirations. Thus, in a name is a sacred prayer to the guiding spirits. Expressing in the most purified way our innermost yearnings. So we pray in the fewest possible words, one word in your case. That is also to say, we recite poetry to the gods of creation. So, in poetry, prayer, in the name of Trust Africa.
Trust Africa.
She who inspires trust in African agency in the face of cynicism. Trust Africa.
Trust Africa.
To the born child, welcome. Your people long awaited for your day. Welcome, child of Africa. You're born to a mission, African agency. To reawaken belief in self, African agency. To take responsibility for your destiny, African agency. To rise above apathy. To inspire action, African agency. African agency, this is the call for your time. This is your legacy. Proclaim it to the world that Africa has the answers. Reawaken Africa's children to believe in self again. For once a people reawaken to believe in self and their own agency, as Briggs said, on that day, for the second time in the history of the world, humanity will have discovered fire. And from that day, even the sky will be lit. Now, as you walk with your people, remember that you are born to a community of brothers and sisters, comrades and friends. You're born of history, therefore, keep it always. For you are but one tree in a living forest. And always remember that alone you may go quickly, but if you want to go far, join hands with others.
From the endowment bag, she picks 4 rocks, each clearly marked, and laying each one in front of her, one by one, and one by one. To you, your fathers and mothers bequeath these 4 pillars for your mission. Number 1, convenience.
Remember always to gather those affected by an issue. Discuss together and co-create solutions, drawing from the collective wisdom of the community.
Number 2, research.
Know always that knowledge is power, and action without knowledge is blind. Thus, informed action must be your standard.
Number 3, brand making.
Give, but more than money, give of yourself. Let your giving be a sacred act of solidarity.
And 4, technical assistance.
Help build the resilience and strength of communities and their organizations. Help them to be more effective at what they do.
And may this bequeather mark your path as sobering evidence to posterity that we once were your parents. And as you move forward, stay in tune with the rhythm of time. Keep your ears to the ground always for that silent prayer, for that silent whisper. And carry priorities from your time, for each generation is called to its own melody. For today, the following. Number 1, governance.
To always put people's voice and participation at the center of processes shaping the politics and economics of Africa. Transparency, responsibility, and accountability in the stewardship of Africa's economy and politics, always.
2, equitable development.
To be inclusive and work to ensure that all of Africa's children sit at the table, especially those usually on the margins, that the right serve all the children, and that no one is left behind.
And 3, African philanthropy.
To nurture and to harness Africa's resources and her ancient spirit of giving into a wide stream that nourishes the tree of African agency.
So go forth, trust Africa. You stand on the threshold of history. For behold, Africa's century is nigh. Behold the rising sun. Behold, the firmament glows with promise. For this time is for Africa. Rise up, you fallen giant, even beyond your former splendor. For today, your endowment is greater. Vast gifts of nature lie untapped in your womb. And today, your young brim with enlightenment. So reclaim the promise. And as the artist said, rise up and take your stance again. And so she continues. Take a firm stand in this moment. It's your moment. It's your time. But know that you rightly inherit from history as much as you borrow from the future. And by the power bestowed by your generational mandate, history permits you to strike once and part the continuum of time into 3 parts. The past, the present, the future. And the present is the connecting bridge. It's also your stage. And so, everyone waits. Remember too, that an unwritten contract to continue binds generation to generation of our people. And so, the baton passes from one generation to the next. And the struggle continues. Today, the consecrated stage of history is yours. And so, everyone waits. Behold, I see withered hands beating the drum of African agency. Will you hear the agency? And will you dance on time? Finally, while you have the stage, remember also that even as you must anchor in remembrance of a glorious history and grow deep roots to tap from the source, so may you dare to dream, dare to struggle, dare to invent a future, and struggle